We're just going to give another minute or two as some more folks are still filtering into the waiting room here in the Zoom. And so we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Thank you all for attending. Looks like the traffic filtering in from the waiting room is starting to die down here. So we can go ahead and get started here as we now are on the other side of the 2 o'clock hour. So thank you again for attending this webinar today. The purpose of this is to kind of give you guys an update of where we're at with the Oklahoma Airport System Plan update. And part of that is showing the information in a GIS tool that will be available to everybody to kind of see the information that we've collected and gathered as part of the system plan update, and be able to utilize that for your own individual planning efforts at the airports across the state. But obviously, this is going to be a huge tool for us here with the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission as we're planning and programming for our different projects that are happening across the state as we work through our 5-year airport construction program and start to plan out for the coming years outside of that program as well. So this is a great tool for us to see where we're at versus where we want to go. And we thank you all for taking the time throughout this project to get us the information that we've been looking for, the services and facilities that are located at our airports across the state, and also just for being available for some of the site visits that have occurred across this project. And so as we're coming up to the close of this, we probably still have a couple, maybe 2 or 3 months, of some analysis and of course printing and publishing and those types of things. So we do hope to be completely finalized and roll this out come fall. And so we are doing some tidying up here in the summer months as we look to roll this out completely. And so one part of this is the tool that we are going to go over today. And with us is Greg Sanders. He's been leading the charge on putting this information into this interface and developing this tool for us, so that instead of having simply a technical report of several chapters to read through that sit on a shelf, that we can kind of show a better representation of the information and conduct some analysis via this online tool here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Greg Sanders to give us a run through of our GIS tool here that we have for the Oklahoma Airport System Plan update. So Greg, why don't you go ahead and take it away for us?
Thanks, Nick. My name is Greg Sanders. I'm with Jviation, a Wolper company, and have been working on the GIS tool here for the past few months, and happy to demo it for you today. A couple of key points just to highlight before we get started. This data that is used in the GIS tool is a snapshot in time that was collected as part of that system plan in 2020 and 2021. As this tool gets passed to OAC, that data should be able to be updated. But right now, if you see a number, it's from that 2020, 2021 data collection effort. This link will eventually be available on the OAC website. So right now, the pavement management system is available on OAC's site, and then you can navigate eventually, in a similar manner to this GIS tool once it gets moved over to OAC. And then finally, all the data that you see in this tool today will be available for download to an Excel file. So you'll be able to manipulate that data in Excel any way you'd like if you're interested. So with that, I'll get right to it. So what you're looking at here on the screen is essentially the home page. It's titled Airport Characteristics. And I want to hop down to the bottom left here where we have the user guide. The user guide gives a brief spiel on the system plan and what we're looking at here in the GIS tool, and gives some information on the 5 dashboards that are provided here at the top: airport characteristics, hangars, development areas and RPZs, pavement, and data export. So I'll go through each of these tabs through the presentation, but I'll give a quick overview of each of these right now. So airport characteristics. This dashboard contains information collected as part of the system plan inventory effort. So provides a lot of baseline information on airport attributes such as runway length, fuel availability, general aviation terminal attributes. So really, it's kind of like an airport, just inventory of everything that's associated with an airport. We also have representations of 30-minute drive times from each airport. That's the blue shaded areas on the map there. So we do have some shapes illustrating that airport accessibility. And then we also have runway safety areas. As you zoom into an individual airport, we have the runway safety area shape for each runway in the system. Next, we have the hangar dashboard. This dashboard just contains information collected as part of the system plan on hangar spaces at airports, waiting lists, based aircraft, overnight storage. So really anything tied into aircraft and storage can be found in that hangar dashboard. Next is the development areas and RPZs tab. That tab contains information on development areas that were collected for about 40 of the busiest system airports. So as you navigate in that dashboard, it will show some parcels and property outlines for developable areas on the airport. And it will also depict runway protection zones for each runway. And it'll break those runway protection zones out by controlled and uncontrolled properties. So controlled if it's owned by the airport, uncontrolled if it is outside of the airport's ownership. Finally, or the fourth, we have pavement. That just provides a link to the existing OAC pavement management database. And then last is that data export, where you'll be able to download all of this data to a CSV file and work with it in Excel. So with that, I'm going to get to the functionality of this specific dashboard here, airport characteristics. I'm going to work from left to right on the screen. So I'll start over here on the left with this arrow here. If you pop this arrow out, it's going to give you all of the airport attributes that are included in this particular tab. With this pin up in the corner, you can pin these attributes so you can always see them, or you can decide to hide those over here. For right now, I'll pin those just so we see them. And up here, we have an airport counter. So right now, we're displaying all 108 system airports. As we manipulate these attributes over here on the left, this counter will change to meet the criteria that you're setting over here on the left, and it will represent what is also on the map. Down here next to the user guide, we have some other tabs. We have a chart. So the chart right now mimics the map. So we have the 4 system plan role categories: national business, regional business, general, and community. And as you hover over these, this will tell you the exact number of airports in each of those roles. And if you're unfamiliar with the roles in the system plan, this third tab, roles, will provide the definition of each of those categories. All right, next we have the map over here. There is a zoom function. If you're using your mouse, you can zoom in and out on the map. And then most importantly, there are these 4 icons in the top right. So we have the search bar. You can search by the airport's name up here in the top right, and it'll zoom to either the airport's drive time or airport point. Next, we have the legend. So as you can see, we're zoomed out a little too far here, but once you zoom in, these RSAs are that orange shade. OAC, the airports are represented by their role. And the service areas are that light blue color. Next, we have layers. So we have the RSA layer, the airport point layer, and the drive time service areas. And we can turn each of these on and off as we desire. So we can turn off the RSAs, can't see them, but turn off the airport points, and we can turn off those drive times if you'd like. Finally, the base map defaults to satellite imagery with a hybrid where you can see some roads and labels. You can change that to your preference over here on the top right. So you can change it to any kind of base map that you prefer while you're using the tool. All right, so I'll do an example of some simple query that will show what this thing can do. So just a really simple one. I'm going to just choose to look at the national business airports. So as I choose that, the map gets filtered down to show those 18 national business airports. And it's also represented over here in the card, as well as in the chart. So the chart will filter down to show those 18 airports. And then just to keep it simple, of these 18 airports, let's see which ones are regional NIPIAS role airports. So which brings us down to 9. So 9 of those airports in the national business role are regional NIPIAS airports. So as you can see, there are a great number of filters over here that you can manipulate and set to see what is on to show what you want to see with these inventory attributes. Going a little bit further into the capabilities, I'm going to zoom in on one particular airport, and I'm going to use University of Oklahoma Westheimer as the example airport for each of these dashboards today. So as I type in University of Oklahoma, it's going to give me an option for the service area. So if I select that, it'll zoom in on the drive time of the airport. Or if I select OAC airports, it's going to select the airport point. So I'm going to select the drive time here. And it'll zoom me into Norman, Oklahoma. And as I select that, it's going to bring up a pop-up. And this pop-up has the information tied to that drive time shape. So it provides some basic information about airport name, FAA ID, and city, the system role and the NIPIAS role, and then specifically tied to the geography, we have square miles. So 1,668 square miles is in that drive time coverage. Looks like just over 1 million people as of 2020 that are within 30 minutes of the airport, and over 500,000 jobs are within that 30-minute drive time. Next, I'm going to zoom in a little bit further to that University of Oklahoma airport point. As I zoom in, you'll notice that the service area fades away. So now we're only looking at the RSAs and the airport point. So I'm zoomed in here all the way to the Westheimer Airport. And these orange shapes are the runway safety areas. So I'm going to select this one here. This provides the airport reference code for that specific runway, the RSA dimensions, and which specific runway that shape is associated with. And we can do the same for this shape. That pop-up contains similar information. So as we're zoomed in at this level, I'm going to decide to turn off those RSAs. So I'll go to the layers icon and turn off RSAs. And now we're left with the airport point, since we're zoomed in so far that the service areas aren't showing up. And I will select the airport point. And similar to the drive time pop-up, when we select the airport point, we get a pop-up over here that provides essentially all of the same information on the left side here that can be filtered. And so if you select that airport point, you can just get a quick snapshot of some of these key airport attributes collected as part of the system plan. And then finally on this tab, I'm going to zoom back out to show these 9 airports again. All right, and then last we have these other 2 tabs next to the map. We have airports and RSAs. And so I'm going to go to airports, and the airports tab provides just a table of information for the airports you're looking at on the map. So it's really all of these informational categories over here on the left in tabular format for those 9 airports. And the cool thing about this table is if you hit Control on your keyboard, you can select as many airports as you like. I'll select Bartlesville, just for example. And so I have these 2 highlighted in blue by hitting Control on the keyboard. And I can go back to the map and I just have those 2 showing up right now. So it's just an easier way to just filter the map down to, make an easy comparison between 2 airports, which I think is pretty handy. And then finally, we have the RSAs. This just has all the RSA information for the airports in the system in tabular format. With that, I'm going to go to the hangars tab. And the hangars and development areas and RPZs dashboards are formatted exactly the same as airport characteristics. So just the dashboard that you're on will be highlighted in blue up here. So you're on the hangars dashboard now, but it also looks pretty similar to airport characteristics. Really, you're looking at the exact same setup as that airport characteristics tab. We still have the filters here on the right, but notice now that these are all pertaining to hangar attributes. We still have the counter, the user guide. We have the chart down here in the bottom left, as well as those role definitions. I'll leave it on the chart. And then we have the map with those same icons, search, legend. Then we have the layers for airport points and service areas, and the base maps. So for this one, I'm going to stick with University of Oklahoma Westheimer again. So I will go to University of Oklahoma Westheimer, zoom in on that particular airport. And I'm going to zoom in a bit further so that turns off the service areas. Again, when we selected that service area, it has the exact same data as the airport characteristics. And I will select the airport point. And now we have that new attribute data related to hangar storage. So we have based aircraft, the hangar waiting list, if there's overnight storage. And then I included some just basic inventory information such as runway length, weather reporting, just to have that in there as reference. Going to zoom back out again, and just to run a quick filter, we'll look at airports with waiting lists over that are 10 or more. So that filters us down to 10 airports here. And you'll see that there's 3 national business, 4 regional business, 3 general airports that match that 10 waiting list criteria. And again, we have that table that should also be filtered to those 10 airports. So you can look at that in tabular format as well. Next, I'll move to the development areas and RPZs. Again, the development areas are for, I think, 40 or so of the busiest airports in the state. So not all airports will have those development area shapes. But in addition to the development areas and RPZs, there is zoning information included in this tab. So if we look at our filters over here on the left, we can see if there is height zoning associated with an airport. And we can look at the zoning body. So who governs that zoning? I'm going to collapse those filters for now. And again, I'm going to use University of Oklahoma Westheimer as the example. So we have the airport point highlighted now, and we have the zoning body listed as the city of Norman. So for all the airports in the system, that zoning information collected as part of the system plan should be available in those airport point pop-ups if you're interested in that. And so we're now looking at the airport property aerial here, and we have some shapes. This is where the layer tool will come in handy. So we're looking at RPZs and development areas. I'm going to turn off the RPZs for now, which leaves us with development areas. And we'll bring up the legend to show what these colors mean. So red indicates that the property is intended for aeronautical development, while green means that the property is primarily intended for non-aeronautical use. And so I'll bring up an example for each of these. I'll click on this development area up here. So as part of the attributes for this development area, it looks like the parcel is 84 acres and has airfield access, roadway access, but no utilities. So we tried to include the utility information for all these parcels, and I think this will be a really helpful tool for any developers. And so I'll bring up a non-aeronautical parcel down here in the southeast portion of the airport property. As you can see, it's 7 acres, no environmental limitations, no airfield access because it's non-aeronautical. And then looks like it does have most utilities available. So electricity, gas, sewer, and water. And I'll switch over to RPZs. I'm going to turn off the development areas. Now we have the RPZ information showing on the screen. So bringing up the legend, the blue is indicating that that part of the RPZ is controlled by the airport, while the red indicates that that portion of the RPZ is uncontrolled by the airport, meaning it's owned by someone else. And so we can go in, and these shapes are broken out. So we can pick on the controlled portion right here, and it's telling us that it's 33 acres. And the RPZ shape is 1,000 by 2,500 by 1,750. And it also gives us some other information on visibility, the runway reference code as well. And we see that this uncontrolled parcel or uncontrolled area is 45 acres. So I think this will be a really helpful tool for airport developers and being able to, see what parts of your airport are ready for development, or what parts of the RPZs are controlled and uncontrolled by the airport. Just to wrap up, we have these tables down here in the bottom right that are associated with, this is primarily just showing you zoning information. So we have if there's height zoning in effect, the governance, the city and county, and then if there are fully controlled RPZs. This is the RPZ data for each of those shapes. So if you're interested in going in and seeing particular information about your airport's RPZs in tabular format. It's right here. And then same with the development areas, all that information is available in a table. So almost done here. So the pavement, this will just take you to the existing OAC web app dashboard for pavement management. This was developed outside of the system plan, but the link is available nonetheless through the GIS tool. So I'll go back, and then finally, we have the ability to download this data in Excel. And so it's going to bring you to a map pretty similar to what we were looking at on those other 3 dashboards for airport characteristics, hangars, and development areas. And it'll default to have this table about halfway up the screen. And so you can manipulate that however you'd like. But the real important part with this airport inventory data export tab is the ability to export to Excel. And the way you do that is you go to options on the table, and you just need to click on export all to CSV. And that'll bring you a downloaded CSV file that you can then bring into Excel and manipulate that data further if you'd like. So with that, I'll open it up for questions if anyone has any. And thanks for letting me present.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Greg, for giving us a run through of that. Obviously, there's a whole lot of information that's included in this, and some different ways to view it here between the filters, and then obviously being able to have that export tool so that we can download our own individual copies of the data and really manipulate it however we please. So appreciate the run through. One small caveat I do want to throw out there before we open it up to questions is obviously this is not live yet. So we do feel like this is in a great place for us to show you the functionality and what this will look like. At the end of the day, this will look exactly like this. There are some small things within here as part of the data is still being updated. And then we have had some conversations with FAA as we've reviewed the technical reports for the system plan. And so there are some items that we've discussed that will be modified here within the data. So the overall, it will look and feel and stuff like this will feel pretty much exactly as it seems today, but just wanted to give the caveat that some items will change between now and actually going live with the date. So bringing open the chat here. First one I got a couple from Mike Kerr. First one question for you there, Greg. Are you keeping the data in 18B geodatabase standard? And a follow up to that is, will the ArcGIS Experience Builder require a login?
So for the second one there, will require an ArcGIS Experience Builder login. No, it will not. I'm actually not logged in right now. This is I'm just viewing this publicly, but we do need to move this over to Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission's GIS. So yeah, it will be available publicly. You don't need a login. And then for that first question, I'm going to have to get back to some of our other GIS folks internally, and we'll get you an answer on that.
Gotcha. So thank you very much for that that question there, Mike. We will get that in the into their other folks to make sure that we get you the right information for that question there, and and follow up with that as we're able to get that information back. And this additional question here, will dashboards be used to create executive views? I'm not Greg, maybe you know better what he's referring to there for executive views, but I'll leave that to you for that question.
Yeah, let me bring that up again. Create executive views. Let me get back to you on that. I don't believe so. Really, it's just viewing it and manipulating it as you see it. It's all online, so it's. But let me get back and talk with our GIS folks again on that. So apologies, I don't have the answer for you right now, but we can definitely look into that for you.
Gotcha. I appreciate that, Greg. I guess I'm not familiar with the executive views. So the intention is that every time you log in, it'll kind of start here fresh. you'll be able to filter as you please. And then if you were to refresh the page, obviously it would then refresh all of your filtering and all that kind of stuff. And in terms of how data will be submitted and uploaded to OAC for data updates, a lot of that will occur as part of our typical inspection cycles. We inspect all of our public use airports in the state of Oklahoma, with the exception of our commercial service airports, every 3 years. And so as we go and we do our 5010 inspections for those, we collect that data and discuss with the local folks as we collect that, and update that at the same time. But also as things change on the airports, whenever we in the interim and within those 3 years, obviously if we don't know what's changing out there and without you guys letting us know, there's no ways for us to keep track. So as things, services and facilities change, just by emailing myself or any of the aviation program managers, we are looking to hire one right now. And then of course we also have Thomas Galloway as well. So honestly, if you let anybody on our team here at Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission know that some of this data has changed and needs to be updated or something's wrong, then just email anybody on the team and we'll work to get that updated and into this system. And your follow-up there, I'm saying, is will you be downloading the data from the ADIP system? No, all of this has come from, whether it be the ADIP system or our inventory surveys, but we are the ones who update the ADIP system. So we do pull our information from there, and anything that needs to be updated on both locations, say here in the database on the GIS system for the system plan, as well as the ADIP system for FAA, we'll update it in both cases, both systems, to make sure it's accurate in all locations. So it's always a team effort for making sure that these types of things are updated and continually addressed and as current as possible. So if at any point after this goes live and as we bring this to fruition, any and all folks that see any errors on there, please just let us know and it will quickly get it updated and make sure that the data is as accurate as possible. Any other questions from the group here? Perfect. And thanks again, Mike. I appreciate your questions there. And that's excellent. So yeah, as grants come to fruition and those final inspections occur, typically during that process, just as our engineers would be updating that information in the databases as necessary, then we'll do the same here and just kind of add that to our checklist is the intention there. Obviously, there's a chance to miss one or two things here as you have a couple different places to update. But again, with our great communication within our airport family and community across the state of Oklahoma, we're confident that as long as we keep downloading this stuff and keep the communication up, we'll keep the data updated here as well. And one follow-up question here I'm seeing is, can the data be downloaded in SHP, GEO, or KMZ options? I don't believe so, but Greg, could you elaborate on that if you have some other information for that?
Yeah, sure. That's something that I'll have to talk with OAC's GIS administrator with. So that's a TBD. We'll hope to get you an answer here soon. That's a great question, though.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't anticipate that to be the case, as I know that wasn't something that we discussed during the scope. But if that happens to be something where these shape files and stuff like that is fairly easily convertible, and we can find a way to do that, then we're certainly not opposed to that. But we'll just check and make sure to see what our options are, since that wasn't something that was identified in the scope of this project to give as a deliverable there. So obviously the one thing that we don't want to do is create a bunch of different versions of those KMZ files. Say somebody downloads one today and then somebody else were to download another one in 6 months. Obviously there would likely be some changes between those two different files. And so those are the types of things that if we were to be able to provide something like that, we just want to make sure that we don't create an issue by presenting that information in two different snapshots of time and causing some confusion there. So those are the types of things that we're going to follow up on internally as we get ready to roll this out. And if we have additional functionality that wasn't included in this presentation, obviously we'll send some updates and some guidelines on how best to access and download the data that will be available. So again, I certainly appreciate all your questions, all great questions. and we'll, as we get ready to roll this thing out, we'll come up with some good good information to send out to everybody to let everybody know that it is available and where to find it, and offer up some any clarifications to the data that was presented today as part of this process, and and make sure that everybody's up to speed with all the things available through this tool. So we are extremely excited with what this the opportunities this presents to us. Obviously, we've incorporated some items that normally we haven't had as part of our system plan, and that includes the commercial development items and stuff like that. So there's a lot of great things happening across the state with folks wanting to move in and operate on our airports and in our airport environment. And so it was our way of trying to capture that and to work with our commerce department to provide good information to prospective companies that may potentially want to move, locate, or start up in the state of Oklahoma. And so we think this is a great addition to the data that we typically have on hand and what we've had in years past. And we're excited for what this kind of will bring, the possibilities this will bring in the future as part of our, economic impact study, our airport and pavement management system, and now a refresh of our system plan. We hope that with those three items, this really able to take us very far into the future and help us compete on a national level as we try to build out the aerospace and airports industries here in the state of Oklahoma, because we know that aviation and aerospace is huge in the state, and we want to make sure that we're keeping at the forefront of those items with our guiding documents and our guiding systems to ensure that we're capturing what we can as the state of Oklahoma. And so, Greg, I again thank you very much for taking the time. I see no further questions here, so we will look to give folks a little bit of their afternoon back, but just know that we will save this webinar presentation, and it has been recorded. We will post that to our YouTube page as well, so that once we do roll this out, this will serve as a good video kind of user guide in addition to the one that's embedded in the system, so that folks can get a good run through and overview of what this is meant to do and its capabilities. So like I said, just a couple of small things will change as we go forward, but I think the overall functionality, the look of it, the feel of it as you see it today will carry us through and be what you see and look and feel and play with once it goes live. So as that does go live, we would ask that if you have any feedback, suggestions, those types of things that we could better in the future, let us know. Obviously, this is a work in progress, and this is our first foray into that. So we think we're in a great place, but we do want to hear the feedback and what it looks like for you guys, because obviously this is a great tool for our agency and for myself in particular. But we do want to make sure that you guys get some use out of it and are able to put that to use at the local level as well, because we think this is a great way to collect and display the information that we've collected throughout this process. And at the end of the day, it's for us all. It's part of the system. It's for the betterment of the system, and looking through and having this available to you.
Sorry, could you say that again?
It looks like Siri wants to get in on the conversation too. So one more question popped up here before we go, Greg, and that is, are you going to have the metadata available for the various features?
Sorry, had to find the unmute button. That's something I'll talk to OAC's GIS administrator about, since they'll be running it at the end of the day. So let me get back with you on that question.
Got it. Yeah, and I think that all these are possibilities if folks find it useful and it's something that we could do fairly easy. I think our intention here was just to provide this as a baseline type of information for the general public. And then if there were some things where if there's something that we can pull that would help you guys on the local level to access this in a different way or in different format, then we could work to try to do that. But primarily what we were looking to do is provide an online tool that provides the overview of the information that we're able to easily update it on our end. And then if there are some specific applications to where we could pull some additional information or metadata or different KMZ files, those types of things, then we could look to do so on an individual basis. But at the end of the day, we just wanted to find a way that we could share this information that we're keeping with the general public, so that if it is helpful to you guys, that we're not just hoarding this information behind a paywall or something like that, because again, it's for the betterment of the system as a whole. though we do realize that this information is typically what helps us more from looking at the system at a holistic level rather than at the individual airport level. So with that, I think we will give you the rest of your time this afternoon back to you. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to myself. You can give me a call or shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to work with the team to get you any answers that we need to. And we certainly appreciate everybody taking the time throughout the entirety of this process to answer our questions, to our inventories, our different surveys that we've asked and those types of things. So we know we've been asking a lot over the course of the past year plus, and we thank you for your response and for being available for those and for the site visits and all of those things. So as we look to put a bow on all this stuff in the coming months, we certainly appreciate your feedback and getting back to us whenever there are some small items that we're looking to receive from some of you here as we look to close out the project. So thank you again for taking the time to join this webinar. I will also mention that all of our other webinars is the fifth webinar. We do anticipate having one more before we close this out to give a full overview of the system update. And so we will look for that in the coming months. We'll give you some plenty of heads up for that as well. But anything in any of the webinars that we've had to this point can be found on our YouTube page as well. So if you missed any of those, please feel free to visit our YouTube page and view those at any time. And we'll get this one added here before too long as well. So with that, thank you very much for all of your involvement, for being a part of the project and this webinar today. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll look to see you soon. Thank you all.